Today on Adorama Live on No Film School, we take a look at how sometimes creating a fresh look can get you noticed with Morgan Cooper, the creator of the viral trailer for Bel-Air. But first, we sit down with Steve Heiner from Nikon to look at their mirrorless cameras. This is Adorama Live on No Film School. Welcome to Adorama Live on No Film School, where we talk to filmmakers and video professionals about techniques and technology. I am your host, Stephen Pierce. We are here on the floor of NAB Show 2019 in Las Vegas. And you can see all of the episodes of Adorama Live on nofilmschool.com, so please go check them all out. I'm very excited to have my first guest here, Steve Heiner. I met him several years ago while we were working on South by Southwest using 12 or 13 at that time brand new Nikon D4s to do a live stream of some concerts. He's an impressive technical mind, and he's always striving to improve Nikon's products by listening to direct user feedback. Today, he's coming on here to talk about the Nikon Z series. Please give a very warm welcome to my friend Steve Heiner from Nikon. Steve, it is awesome having you on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Stephen.
So, when I first met you, we were working on the D4, and I think we were even working with the prototype, but you guys have come quite a long way since. This is your new mirrorless lineup.
Yeah.
So how does this compare to the Nikon D4 and the D800?
Obviously, you remember the D4 very well. We could shoot a whopping 1080.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, of course, but at the time...
720 at 60.
Yeah, there you go. So we have come a long way. Not to mention, in those intervening years, we did away with the mirror box. We made a full-frame mirrorless camera, now with an EVF, so there aren't the sort of compromises that used to go into using a DSLR for shooting HD video.
Right, and that's why DSLRs were bigger, because they physically had a mirror that you were looking through in the viewfinder. You're looking at a reflection of the image. This doesn't have that. That's why it can be smaller. It's taking an electronic version of the image, just like a cinema camera.
Exactly. In fact, all the autofocus function operates right off of the image sensor itself. The autofocus has improved vastly, but of course, you know, the D4 was a different camera. It was a high-end professional camera. This is what we would consider our high-end professional video camera today, and you can see simply by the size difference that we've come a long way. We've taken the mirror box out, we've gone up to 4K now, and of course, this particular camera, I think, really surprised a lot of people. We've been coming to NAB for a number of years. We've been listening to everybody. Everybody in the early days says, what are you guys doing here? You know, we recognized Nikkor optics, but you weren't known for video. So we sort of took in a lot of information that we learned from people who came to NAB and a lot of other sources, decided to make a mirrorless camera. It takes us usually a little longer to do that because we're a very conservative company, and they've really knocked it out of the park with this. 4K to the full edge of the frame, pixel to pixel readout, both in FX and DX format, so the resolution is super high now. We've also announced that this camera will do 10-bit N-Log out to an Atomos Ninja, so you can record in ProRes HQ or LT. And we made an announcement at CES that we're actually going to be the first HDMI camera at this level that will produce ProRes RAW, 12-bit video.
I spoke with Jeremy Young yesterday about that very thing. Jeremy Young, the CEO of Atomos, and he spoke about, I was going to bring it up, and I was not sure if you talked about it yet, so I'm glad that you did it so I don't have to out you. But yes, he was mentioning that ProRes RAW was coming very soon with this. And you've always been doing 10-bit out. That's one of the things that Nikon did, I think, before everyone else, because even the D4 and the D800 both did 10-bit out.
Those were 8-bit out, but I believe that you guys were using at the time a conversion up to 10-bit.
I'm not sure. I can't remember that.
Our HDMI was fairly limited, but needless to say, it doesn't give us the sort of N-Log capability that we have in the 10-bit mode, and of course doesn't even come close to what we now have in the 12-bit ProRes RAW mode.
So let's do a little spec rundown on this camera. I picked this camera up. What resolutions and frame rates can I expect?
Resolutions up to 4K, up to 30. So we have 24, 25 PAL, and 30 frames per second at 4K. We've also put into this camera a 120 frame per second HD mode with sound that can be converted in post to slow motion. But one of the cool things about this camera, because it's a lightweight package and a lot of people sort of run and gun, they want to publish immediately, this has 3 separate modes that will allow you to create a slow motion movie in the camera, so that it comes out of the camera as a finished slow motion. You don't have to do any post-production on it. It doesn't have any audio, but it's great for just throwing on a timeline. Same is true of the time lapse. We can create in-camera 4K time lapses. If you don't want to take the time to put all those images on your timeline and output that,
it'll embed them directly in camera.
It'll make it an MOV file right out of the camera.
With a built-in intervalometer?
Yes, you can actually the big brother to this camera, the Z7, because it'll shoot images that are over 8,200 pixels on the horizontal, you can create 8K time lapses using the interval timer. We're showing a bunch of 8K time lapse sequences over in our booth on an 8K monitor. It's pretty spectacular.
Which I always thought that was very special. You guys built that in, because other brands you have to have an external controller to control. Take an image every second, every 2 seconds, every 30. You have it built into the camera, so it's automatically set up to go. So if you're a run and gun dock shooter, you can shoot video right up to the last moment and then set up a time lapse and set your time lapse, go load the rest of your gear in your car, and you've got both.
Exactly.
So it's a really nice and easy way to do that.
It's truly a multimedia tool.
So I want to be clear what we're looking at here, because this is actually a filmmaker kit. It includes the Rode microphone. This is also an Atomos Ninja. And this stabilizer here, which as long as I don't mess it up, I'm going to press the trigger. That'll help it keep in mode. This whole thing it also has thumb controls here, so I can control pan, tilt, all of this, and it'll do a limited thing I've learned. If you double click the camera, it comes back. So it seems like,
and it even has a selfie mode. That's what that is. You hit it 3 times, it goes into selfie mode.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
All right, great. So that is that. Now I'm not sure how to reset it, if I'm being honest.
There you go.
There we go.
Just like that.
Perfect.
No, this is the Moza Air 2. This is a really handy way to improve your production quality, but just simply being able to stabilize the camera. I will mention, though, that the camera, if you don't want to use it on this big rig, the camera can actually, it has its own image stabilization built into the camera. This we never had in our DSLRs before. That was usually relegated to the individual lenses you put on the camera. Now, because it's built into the camera body, and a part of the filmmaker kit is an adapter called a F to Z adapter, which is a converter from our F mount to our Z mount, which allow you to put all of your Nikon and Nikkor lenses on this camera. And even those lenses that don't have image stabilization now can take advantage of that because it's built into the camera body.
I remember at that time we were shooting with, the Nikkor lenses are really the power behind these cameras for me, because I remember we were shooting with the Nikkor lenses, and they're similar to other brands that they have the telephoto, 2.8, 70 to 200, 24 to 70, but they really have a beautiful, the wide angle 14 millimeter, 16, it's a 16 millimeter.
Well, there's the 14 millimeter rectilinear and then a 16 millimeter fisheye also. Which is,
but the rectilinear is the one I'm thinking about. The distortion's super minimal, so for a photography lens used in video, it's very useful, and we shot a lot of stuff on it. Even with 8-bit, we were able to get a lot, so I'm really impressed that you go. So my next question is, what media do you record on?
This is actually uses an XQD card, which is a very fast media. It's also very durable.
It's like an SD card that's more like a solid state. Like it
Yeah.
feels more like
Yeah.
if you've ever felt a solid state drive in a computer or
Yes,
something where it's
exactly.
kind of thick.
It's got a metal casing.
Yeah.
It's very durable, and it's based on the same PCI standard that the CF Express is. That's coming soon. We're going to have a firmware update in a couple of months that will allow this to also use CF Express cards interchangeably with XQD.
Wow, that's
and that,
impressive.
of course, that'll increase the recording, the megabits per second dramatically once that takes place too.
So let's not talk about the filmmaker kit for a second, just focusing on just the mirrorless camera here. What is the starting price point?
Z6, $2,000 for the body. I mean, it's an unbelievable deal. $2,000 for 4K in 2 modes, 10-bit output, and of course, when you bundle it all with the filmmaker kit, you know that kit that you're going to give away is worth about $5,300, but it sells retail for $4,000. So it's a really great deal. But a camera like this with the 24 to 70, 2600 roughly, you might want to check with Adorama and make sure you know exactly what that price is. The big brother to this is $32.99. That's the Z7. That's a 45 megapixel camera. That's why this is a preferred video camera, because this is only 24 megapixel. Therefore, both the FX and the DX mode are direct pixel readout at 4K. So you're getting a very, very pure image in both of those modes.
Well, there you go. And I'm super excited that you can still use your old Nikon lenses on this. You don't have to change out your setting or change out your kit if you already own it and you've dedicated to Nikon. So,
Yeah.
Steve, thank you so much for coming on. It's wonderful to see you again.
My pleasure. It's good to see you, Stephen. It's been a long time.
My next guest, Morgan Cooper, has spent years honing his look and his style. And while he works out of LA, he's based originally out of Kansas City. And he's recently gotten noticed for a trailer he shot and directed, the Bel-Air trailer.
See, for some reason you think this is a game. This is not a game, Will. Look at you. Look at you. The only reason why you're not in jail is because Uncle Phil called in a favor.
Take your time. Go deep. Champion. Too easy. You throw this? You stupid.
You are carrying a gun on the streets to protect yourself? I've done my best, Will. But it's time for a change. You're going to Bel-Air to live with your uncle and your auntie.
Bel-Air, out of all places.
This is a second chance, Will. Don't waste it.
Will, I will not bail you out again. In this house, I'm not Uncle Phil. I'm the law. Have I made myself absolutely clear?
Yeah.
Yeah. There are no butlers to clean up your messes. You've got to be responsible for yourself.
So, Will, what brings you to Bel-Air?
I got caught with a gun. How are we related again?
Shut up, Carlton.
He's from the streets of Philadelphia. Will needs discipline.
Just a little time and a little love. We are what he needs.
Why don't you go back to Philly? Born and raised, right?
You think I would ever want to be in this life?
You're not welcome, Will.
This is fake.
Wherever you're from,
This is
it's
fake.
not
You
like
ain't do
this.
anything to earn this. I never had nothing.
My life ain't a sitcom, I guess. I don't even feel like I belong here.
Just give it some time. Everything happens for a reason.
Yo, you must be from Philly.
Yeah. What's up, man? I'm Will.
Jazz.
Jazz.
Hey, so what part of town you staying in? Bel-Air. They got you out there?
All right, Philly. Let's see what you got. Well, welcome to Bel-Air Academy.
How's everything going at Bel-Air?
It's not too bad out here. I just made the team.
I'm so proud of you.
I'm so glad you're here. I need to take you shopping, Rodeo Drive. Oh my gosh.
I was summoned by God to be the greatest. They said my birth is a curse, I still made it. I stood out in the field when it was raining. 10 toes down in it. Youngin' came up strong with a will to live. Daddy never came home, mama in the pen. So it's relative, got him for the devil did. The streets ain't safe, just to be playing in. It's like deja vu, see it all the time. Yeah, it's like deja vu, see it all the time.
Hey, Jazz.
Hey, Prince, you even go here?
Nah.
Please give a very warm welcome to my guest, Morgan Cooper. Morgan, thanks for being here, man.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Great work on that. So it's obviously it's a dramatization in a trailer form of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, right? What made you want to do that?
Yeah, man, it's funny. I was driving down 71 in Kansas City, and there was like a little bridge that I drove under, and I was telling people I was just thinking about the show randomly. You know, the car is my thinking time. Is this falling off my head, by the way?
Yeah, pull it back up there.
Okay,
See the clipper on your ears there.
Okay, perfect.
There you go.
So I was driving down 71, man. I drive under this bridge, and I was just thinking about the show and how much impact it had on me. You know, just like a lot of, you know, kids that grew up in the 90s. And so I drive under this bridge, and when I came out under the bridge, I had the idea, and it hit me like a ton of bricks. And I went to a coffee shop. I just wrapped the shoot, and I wrote it that night. And that was it. So
there you go. I mean, it looks awesome.
Oh, thank you.
So how did you go about developing the look? You get the idea to do something, a dramatic reimagination of that. It's very colorful. The opening shots, like the hero shots of it with him on the throne and the crown. How did you come up with the concept for all this lighting?
Yeah, you know, my process when it comes to developing a look for a project, it always starts with pulling reference images. That's something that's really important to me. And just tapping into inspiration outside of stuff that's on Vimeo, stuff that's on YouTube, tapping into real art, you know. And so I went to the Nelson, and I saw this big Kahindi Wiley painting called St. Adrian. I said, that is how I want my film to look. That's how I want this project to look. And so I put a mood book together, and from there, you know, it's all about care. When you care about your subject and how their skin looks, it's like a filter. And so through that filter comes the camera, comes the lens decision, comes lighting decision. It's all through that filter, though, of how I want it to feel. So
yeah, I think that's the best type of process. Yeah. So once you've decided the look and you wanted this, what did you end up shooting on? What lenses? Like, what's your general package?
Yeah, so for the show, we shot with the Alexa Mini and Cook S4s. That was the camera lens package. And I wanted to juxtapose the worlds of Philly and Bel-Air. You know, Bel-Air is a lot more polished. You know, his life in Philly was a lot more, you know, it was a lot more real, you know, situations, you know, in the streets or whatever. And so I used filtration in Bel-Air and decided to go without filtration in Philly.
You talking like, you know, black frost or?
Black Pro Mist filtration.
Yeah.
So I used quarter black Pro Mist for all of the Bel-Air stuff. And so that gives your highlights a little bit of bloom, kind of lifts contrast a little bit. It's very pleasant. It's a very pleasant image. It's got a little bit of bloom, a little bit more poppy, a little more happy. And then the Philly stuff feels a little bit more gritty. And so I wanted to really juxtapose those worlds visually. So.
Great. So now the trailer is up 3.5 million views and climbing, I believe, right?
Yeah, on the YouTube. You know, this thing got ripped 25 times. People were ripping, you know, so they would rip the 4K one, and it got diluted to 1080. They'd rip that one, it'd be 360, and then they rip the 360 one, so by the time you see it, you can't even tell what the hell you're looking at. And so, you know, it's made its way around, you know, Twitter, Facebook. I'm not on Facebook, but, you know, so I'm not really sure what the number's at, but more than anything for me, I don't really pay attention to views. That's not my thing.
Right.
More than anything for me is just the art, you know what I mean? And making something that me and my collaborators feel proud of. That's what's most important to me, and it's beautiful when people appreciate it, but ultimately it's like, I feel like if the art is strong, the rest will work itself out, you know?
That's a great thing, man. That's a great. So now, how has that helped you? Like, what's happened since you, obviously it's getting quite a bit of recognition.
Yeah.
How's that changed your career trajectory from, you know, director of photography that's out there working on a variety of projects to now this is on your resume?
Yeah, it's changed in a lot of ways, and it's a developing story right now, so I can't speak too much on some of the stuff that's happening, but it's very exciting, and I think more than anything, like I said, you know, this at the end of the day is a Kansas City project. I'm from Kansas City, Missouri, and I think some KC folks are in the house. Yeah, how many we got? Got a few
got
from
a couple.
KC.
He's a KC hat.
Yeah.
A couple KC hats.
You said what? Okay, Sinbad's in the house, by the way. And Sinbad's wife's from KC, so shout out Sinbad, man. And so to see my collaborators be seen, you know, some of the actors that are in it, you know, Sherry Roulette Mosley, Rufus Burns, Johnny Stark, who is a producer on this project, to see their talent shine, that's what excites me the most. And you know, they're all like, my family hit me up, my family saw this, my cousin, my auntie saw this. I'm like, that's what, you know, makes me the most happy about this is seeing their joy through the project. I'm very much about process, you know what I mean, and everybody enjoying the process and seeing their excitement is what really makes me feel fulfilled. So
how many days did you shoot this?
So this was the 8-day shoot. We shot 4 days in Kansas City. All of the Philly stuff was in Kansas City. The scene at the beginning with Will and Vi, his mom, we actually shot that in my auntie's living room. No set design or nothing. Like, we pulled up, we shot that thing as is, right? You know what I mean? It's like the classic black home, you know, and I wanted to capture something that was really authentic to me, you know what I mean? And so these are things I've seen growing up my whole life, and so I wanted to really portray, particularly that scene, in a very authentic way. So
I think the texture totally comes through, and obviously you putting your personal scope on it, I think, is what made the piece ring true, you know, at least for me. So I kind of want to start looking into your style and work beyond just the trailer. So because we have some of the work that you've done also from your reel, and I realize this one's even a couple of years old, so you have like more things. But we can look, once you start to look at the work you're doing, it seems like you've definitely developed a style, this kind of low-key, colorful, but not overly done. You know, it's like it's not too much, which I really, so how did you develop that, and what is appealing about that for you?
Yeah, I think for me, you know, when I was starting out, just like a lot of guys, you're just looking at what everyone else is doing in your space. You know, about 5 years ago, I was like, you know what, I can never be that. You know, all I can be is me, right? And so I'm just gonna do what feels right to me with my work, and it's all about expression ultimately, you know, and it's also an aspect of maturity. You grow up and you start to realize, I don't have to do things the exact same way these cats are doing it. Like, I'm gonna do it my way, right? And so I started tapping into things that I knew and things I grew up with, my family, my culture, art that I like, music that I like, and I really think that's reflective in my work. You know, I'm a big hip hop fan, I'm a big jazz fan. The movies I grew up with, you know, I grew up watching Juice. I didn't grow up watching Top Gun, I grew up watching Juice, Menace to Society, Belly. Those are the joints I grew up with, and so it's like, I'm gonna tap into those things that I care about and that I like in art, you know. And then later on, about a few years ago, I started really getting into fine art and seeing the work of Kahindi Wiley, some of the still photographers that I admire, Roy De Carava, Gordon Parks, you know, seeing what they're doing, you know, you find pieces of that inspire you. And I think it's a subconscious thing. I'm never the type to watch something like, I want to copy that. But when I see a Roy De Carava photo, I'm like, I want to evoke that feeling that I feel when I look at that photo. And so I take all that, and I think that's a big part of my meta, is just, you know, pulling these pieces of influence through things that I'm into. And also, you know, growing up as a child, I remember my pops driving down the road listening to Coltrane, Miles Davis, you know, Donny Hathaway, the Supremes, you know, all of those joints that I find, you know, that come through my work visually. So
that's awesome, dude. So, I mean, I'm kind of sensing that you're obviously a very visual person, but I'm hearing you reference photos and paintings a lot. Is that where you draw a lot of your inspiration from, is photos and paintings specifically, other than films and things more?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Fine art is a huge influence in my work right now. Like, my mood book was just like a ton of Kahindi Wiley and Ferrari Shepherd. Both of those were like kind of my North Stars visually for the Bel-Air project. And I think you see it, just the way he literally paints black skin and the care and love. You know, that's something that's really important to me. I talked about this with somebody earlier about just how cinema and cameras, you know, historically in film have been used to create a stigma against black skin. You know what I mean? And they've never favored black skin. And so to be a part of changing that narrative is something that is very important to me, and something that's very exciting to me, is to be someone who, when an actor walks on set, not just look at him as a prop, but this is a human. You know, this is a human, and to capture their humanity, you know, in a very honest way is something that's very, very important to me. You know, these people aren't just, you know, everybody in Bel-Air, people, you break bread with these people. These are people. They're not just props, you know, and so being a part of changing that narrative is something that's very important to me.
Not to ask you an overly technical question, but I believe that the lens is really where the director of photography gets to put their stamp on a piece, because all large sensor camera, I mean, you have the Alexa Mini, you've got Red, you've got Panasonic, you've got great big awesome cinema cameras, Sony. Are there a particular style of lenses that you were kind of always drawn to, or you go project by project?
Yeah, I mean, I really think it's whatever the project calls for. You know, when it comes to the gear, I don't really get hung up on a lot of gear because every project calls for something different. But I own a set of Lomo anamorphics, and those
the round fronts, or
the square fronts.
They're beautiful.
I love those lenses, man. Just
they're great.
The character they have, it's just they're very soulful lenses. You know what I mean? And so I lean towards vintage glass. Mark II Super Speeds are probably my favorite lenses of all time. I love Mark II Super Speeds, but at the same time, if a project calls for something more modern, a little bit more clinical, if it's like something cosmetic, I used to shoot. Before all this madness, I was shooting commercials for a living, and a lot of the stuff I shot called for very clean glass, very modern glass. So it's whatever the project calls for. For me, I love making people look pretty. Like I love it. You know what I mean? I want somebody to look, if I capture them and they say, wow, Morgan captured me honestly, like that excites me. You know what I mean? So whatever the project calls for.
So I know you can't talk too much about specific things that are going on, but let's look at the future for Morgan Cooper. So Morgan, imagine yourself down the road. Where are you going? What do you want to do?
Yeah, I mean, I want to give back to my community. I think more than anything, through my art, through my platform, look at what happened to Nipsey. Nipsey Hussle, RIP, just passed away, and all the work he was doing in his community. I see somebody like that, I'm like, I want to be a part of picking up that mantle, giving back to, young boys and girls in East and South Kansas City where I grew up, you know what I mean? So I think ultimately I want to tell honest stories that, through my platform, once again, just giving back. I mean, I think that's the most important thing. When I die, I don't want people to just be like, oh, Cooper was a cold director, DP or whatever. It's like, whatever, like, you know how many incredible directors and DPs are out there? It's like, I want them to say he cared, and he left something behind for this next generation to be empowered, you know what I mean? So that's something that's without a doubt, no matter what that looks like, that's at the front of my mind. So
absolutely, man, and that's an amazing mission to have.
Thank you.
So are there any other projects that people can find of yours out there that you'd like to point them to now that they've seen the Bel-Air things that are close to your heart that may, have a little less notoriety?
Sure, yeah. I did a project last year called Levitation. It's a boxing short film music video. It's actually, I'm going to Atlanta tomorrow for the Atlanta Film Festival because it's premiering there, showing there. So you can check that out. It's on my Vimeo. Also a film called Room Tone that I did. It's a very simple slice of life type of short film about my homie Larry. I wrote it about him kind of the same way I wrote Bel-Air, just hit me at a moment's notice. And so I went to a coffee shop and just pinned it. It's kind of a slice of life film. So you can check that out on my Vimeo. It's vimeo.com/Morgan Cooper DP. So you can take a look at those. Yeah.
Morgan, I think you're a very, very cool and extremely talented person, man. Thank you very much for taking the time to come in and chat with us. Let's give a hand to Morgan.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
And you can see all of our episodes of Adorama Live on nofilmschool.com. So please go join the conversation by leaving a comment and watching the other videos. I'll see you in the next episode of Adorama Live on No Film School.